Willy Falcon loved the good life, loved to race along in number 20. Of course, he was able to finance his high style of living by importing cocaine, federal agents claim. His coke dealing ring was reportedly the largest on the East Coast and one of the top 5 in the world. Until the day Falcon and alleged Lieutenants Salvador Magluta and Lorenzo Benigo were arrested and charged with smuggling nearly 75 tons of cocaine into South Florida. The feds were delighted. They seized nearly $2.1 billion worth of property as they prepared their case against the Falcon group. But then witnesses against the gang started dropping like a judge's gavel. Luis Escobedo, who was going to testify against his old friends, was shot to death outside a Coconut Grove bar. No one was ever caught. Juan Barroso was going to tell what he knew about his old friends. Last August, he pulled into this gas station and was shot in the back of the head. He survived. The gunman escaped. The next to talk about the Falcon gang, Lazaro Cruz. He was shot outside his Hialeah home. He lived, but the attackers escaped. And yesterday, the latest on the witness list, Bernardo Gonzalez was gunned down. He died. Again, the gunman escaped. But the strangest death of a friend of Falcon's was the closest to him. His wife, Ailina, was ambushed on the streets of Coral Gables last August. But while the other shootings may seem like someone's attempt to kill all the witnesses, police are certain she was not the target of a revenge killing, simply a victim of random violence.
Ailina Falcon's husband has been an inmate at the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Southwest Dade since October of last year. That's when Willy Falcon was arrested by federal marshals inside this posh Fort Lauderdale home. The Falcons reportedly rented the house for $9,000 a month while Falcon was on the lam. Willy Falcon is one of 10 people named in a 24-count indictment charging him with smuggling 75 tons of cocaine into the U.S. and laundering millions of dollars in drug money. Federal agents say Falcon amassed more than $2 billion worth of real estate and other property in Dade and Monroe counties. In his spare time, Willy Falcon raced powerboats and was apparently very good at it. Along with partner Sal Magluta, who also faces drug charges, Falcon won several big-time races. The driveway of Falcon's home in Southwest Dade was packed with cars today, but one man leaving the house warned us to stay away.
No problem.
Metro Dade police emphasize they have no reason to believe Ailina Falcon's murder was in any way connected to her husband's alleged drug dealing. They say she was simply a victim of a senseless street crime.
They had seen Ailina driving in her Jaguar. They had decided that she looked like a wealthy person. She looked like an easy target for them to rob.
It happened August 6, 1992, outside a beauty supply shop on Ponce de Leon in Coral Gables. Ailina Falcon gunned down as she left the salon and headed for her car. In opening arguments today, prosecutor Catherine Vogel told the jury 3 men, including Charles Cheatham and his partner, nicknamed Seaman, tried to snatch Falcon's purse, but she resisted.
And this defendant jumps into her car, almost his whole body, so we're the only thing that's hanging out are his legs. And he gets into a struggle with Ailina over her purse. This defendant then said to Seaman, who was standing outside the Jaguar, "Shoot her, shoot her." That's exactly what Seaman did.
Defense attorney Ron Gaynor says Cheatham was not the trigger man and didn't want anyone hurt.
Charles Cheatham fled with the purse, yes. He was apprehended in Broward County 6 days later, yes. But the bottom line is he didn't use a firearm, and he wasn't going to use a firearm on Ailina Falcon. He made a conscious decision not to do so. That's why he's not guilty of first-degree murder.
Bernardo Gonzalez's deal with federal officials helped him avoid life in prison. It got him death in his own backyard. Gonzalez was gunned down inside his truck Tuesday. His brother was also killed.
Possibility of drug involvement?
No. These are good people.
Good is a relative term. Gonzalez was supposed to testify against Willy Falcon and Sal Magluta at their October drug trial. Falcon and Magluta are charged with smuggling over 15 tons of cocaine into the United States from the Bahamas in the 1980s. It's one of the largest drug cases in federal history. But potential witnesses keep getting in the way of bullets. So far, 3 have been shot, including Luis Escobedo, killed outside a Miami disco, and Juan Barroso, shot in the head when he drove into this gas station. He lived. This government informant claims Falcon and Magluta are orchestrating the shootings from their jail cells. He says he spoke to their associates.
They were talking about how they were going to get back at whoever spoke and whoever testified, and how they were going to teach, they were going to show the snitches or the government informants a lesson of what was going to go down.
Falcon and Magluta lived the fast life after dropping out of a Miami high school. They lived in luxury. They raced speedboats. The federal indictment claims they used those same fast boats to bring over $2 billion worth of cocaine into the United States. Gonzalez himself made $75 million in profit by being in charge of offloading the boats. He was arrested, and federal agents offered him a choice: testify against Falcon, Magluta, and others, or spend life in prison.
The way the sentencing guidelines have changed criminal law have created major drug dealers who get arrested, face life imprisonment, and then don't have a choice really but to cooperate.
Gonzalez served 44 months in prison and reportedly recruited 8 others to testify against Falcon and Magluta. He also helped make cases against 20 other smugglers. He refused to go into the government's witness protection program. Federal prosecutors, though, claim Gonzalez's murder won't destroy their case. This is one of the biggest drug cases in U.S. history, and federal officials say they can make the case against Falcon and Magluta using other witnesses. The problem is keeping them alive until the October trial. Charles Jaco, CNN, Miami.
Bernardo Gonzalez is dead. His younger brother Umberto is not expected to survive the gunshot wound to his head. Both men were shot at the family home in Horse Country of southwest Dade yesterday. 5 or 6 people were seen running away after the shots were fired. The brothers, boat builders, supposedly were meeting potential buyers. But the Gonzalezes also had another occupation. Both were tied into the drug world. Bernie Gonzalez was, sources tell Eyewitness News, a major offloader of narcotics before he pled guilty to drug and tax charges. Bernie Gonzalez had cut short a prison sentence after agreeing to testify against Augusto Willy Falcon and his alleged drug-dealing partner, Sal Magluta. The two were considered by many in law enforcement as top dealers, controlling one of the top 5 drug cartels in the entire world. Connie Hicks, Channel 10 Eyewitness News, Daybreak.
Choppers with powerful spotlights blanketed the sky as police threw out a massive dragnet hoping to track the gunman or gunmen. That as Metro Dade's special response team swarmed the warehouse near State Road 112 and Northwest 36th Avenue, covering it from the ground and from the roof. Police stood watch behind the safety of their squad cars, poised to take in and, if necessary, take down their man.
Now, according to police, this happened just after 9 o'clock last night. They say the victims pulled up in front of Aircraft Modular Products here in Northwest 36th Avenue. When they got out of their car, police say they were greeted with a hail of gunfire.
Now, an informed source tells 7 News it may have been an organized hit against a witness in the trial of reputed drug kingpins Willy Falcon and Sal Magluta. As you may know, 3 others linked to that case have already been shot.
This bullet.
You heard 6 gunshots.
Yeah, after that, 3 more, different gun.
3 more different shots.
And different gun.
And then you saw police bring out 3 wounded people.
All right.
We found 3 people had been shot. 1 is fatal, 2 are critical, and all have been transported to JMH. 1 person that was transported also was trying to escape the people who were shooting him. And in doing that, he fell and broke his hip. Okay?
Are we talking more than 1 gunman at this point?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how many gunmen there are. But it was enough to create, 3 people getting shot and 1 hurting himself very badly.
Original report was a man on the roof firing.
I've heard it, but I don't know.
4 employees of Aircraft Modular Products were returning to work in this blue MPV when suddenly gunfire rained down on them from the roof of the factory. 32-year-old Miguel Roque was killed, 2 co-workers were badly wounded, and a 4th man broke his hip trying to flee. But it's one of the wounded workers who federal sources say may have been the target of the bloody assault. He's Ray Cruz, and he's the brother of a key prosecution witness in the upcoming trial of Willy Falcon and Sal Magluta. They're charged with bringing $2 billion worth of cocaine into the United States. To date now, 5 other people connected with the case have been gunned down, including Bernie Gonzalez, who was killed last June here at his South Dade home.
At this point, we've established no motive whatsoever in this, nor would it be appropriate for us to speculate on whether this is connected to the Falcon case with the federal government.
Our sources say investigators believe one man on the roof did the shooting that resulted in a night-long manhunt for the sniper, but by dawn, the man had clearly eluded the dragnet that included heavily armed police SWAT teams.
The 2 men entered federal court this afternoon smiling, throwing kisses to family. They thought they'd walk out today, but it didn't happen.
We feel very optimistic about a release on bail. Obviously, both men have been acquitted by the jury. Almost all the bases the government argued for detention were bases rejected by the jury.
Magluta's attorney Roy Black spoke confidently about the men's release because U.S. Magistrate Linnea Johnson seems to reject the pleas of the U.S. attorney to keep both men locked up without bail. They call them flight risks, but Johnson appears compelled by this contention.
They've already served longer in pretrial detention than the possible maximum sentence. So I think things look very good, and tomorrow morning we'll be here at 9 o'clock to continue this hearing, and I think they'll be released tomorrow morning.
Relatives and friends of the defendants celebrated the verdicts outside the Miami federal courthouse.
Very happy. Justice prevailed.
Justice prevailed, they say, for 2 men accused of being the top drug traffickers in the U.S. in the 1980s. Augusto Willy Falcon and Sal Magluta were each acquitted on several charges of smuggling over $2 billion worth of cocaine into the U.S. and laundering millions of dollars of drug money.
For both Mr. Falcon and Mr. Magluta, and it was a long time coming. It took 4.5 years of work, but finally came to fruition.
But for the prosecution, the verdicts were a great disappointment.
This is certainly one of the most startling results that I can recall in the time I've been U.S. Attorney in a narcotics case.
The prosecutors argued that Falcon and Magluta used the money from their drug smuggling to buy palatial homes and to live a lavish lifestyle. After the 2 were indicted, 2 prosecution witnesses were killed. 2 more were wounded. Attorneys for the 2 defendants denied their clients were involved. Throughout the trial, prosecutors say they had a lot of evidence, among them government witnesses who testified in exchange for lighter sentences. The defense argued those witnesses were unreliable.
The jury rejected lying government witnesses. That's it, pure and simple.
Kindle Coffey responded by saying it's normal for drug cases to have witnesses with criminal backgrounds, and despite the verdicts, he stands by his evidence.
We believe the government presented overwhelming evidence of a wide variety of sorts. Documentation, tapes, and that it was an overwhelming case that was superbly prosecuted, a tremendous job by the investigative team, and while we have no explanation for the result, we of course appreciate that in our system it is the jury that renders the verdicts.
They could have faced life behind bars. Instead, the so-called cocaine kingpins are free to enjoy life, no holds barred. Willy Falcon and Sal Magluta were each acquitted on drug smuggling charges. Their families are celebrating the not guilty verdicts, all 17 of them. Magluta's father says he's glad his son will be able to lead a normal life again.
Magluta and Falcon were not immediately released from custody because they still face money laundering charges in Jacksonville. They could, however, go free as early as next week.
This Tuesday, defense attorneys will be urging a South Florida magistrate to grant their clients bail.
It is our wish and our hope, and it will be our extreme effort to have both of those fellows out of jail Tuesday afternoon.
Prosecutors in the case may exercise their power to appeal and could delay the release. But for defense attorneys, the worst is already over. And why do they feel they won over the jury?
I think it was a categorical rejection by the jury of the theory of prosecution, which was a prosecution based on 27 informants whose testimony was paid for by promises of freedom.
The government only presents evidence that the government thinks is credible. We would not present, ever, witnesses that we believe to be putting on the stand.
Mia Carbonell, Channel 10 Eyewitness News.
There's a song that's called Smuggler's Blues that said it all about a certain era of offshore racing. There was a crew of people that came through the sport that took us from the sports pages to the front pages. These guys had income from questionable sources, but they brought tremendous boats, they started their own engine companies, and they raised the bar in terms of budgets for offshore powerboat racing. These guys also made the cover of Time magazine. In the end, they left a tremendous legend in their wake. They were pirates, they were racers, they were exciting, but they're also doing time, some of them for the rest of their lives. This one is Sal Magluta of the Seahawk team. Those of us who knew Sal knew him for an easy smile, a fierce competitive nature, and great innovation in the sport. He never blinked, and he went fast. Anyone who raced against him can tell you he never backed off.
I figured out the way around because they're sure not lost right now.